Hey everyone, welcome back to my next video. We've just been visiting with Brian, the new co-host on the channel, and welcome, Brian.
Thank you very much. So happy to be here. You know, we've had a lot of people wanting to look at what the inside of my rig looks like. So today I had to clean it up a little bit.
We all
Take a
do.
look. Yeah, absolutely.
So we're going to go inside and take a look. Let's do that now.
Come on in, guys. Welcome to my humble abode. So this is my home. This has been my home for, again, 12 years. And I always like to do the way I like to do the real quick tour is, this is my bedroom, the couch, that's my living room. Here's my dining room, my kitchen, and my bathroom in the back.
Well, that completes the tour.
That completes the tour. As easy as that. We'll obviously get into more detail, but whenever someone comes in here, I always like to give them that real quick tour. But yeah, so I guess the first thing I'll say, we'll just start at the back here. Sure. So this is the cab over bed. I just use a flat sleeping bag. This is a Coleman sleeping bag that's rated to 20 degrees. And this works great as a comforter because it has the cottony feel to it. And then I always have an extra sleeping bag there as well as here. I use for backpacking, but can double. If it gets really cold, I can just lay it over me on top of this. I do know a lot of people in Class Cs, they don't sleep in their cab over. They either have another bed in the back or they make something else into the bed. But I like the idea of up here sleeping because it gets my bedroom out of the way so that I can have the rest of the motorhome for my own living. I have a cooler right here that I use as kind of a stepping stone or stepping block. But basically I just go here, here, and then just as easy as that, I'm up in bed. Not a ton of room above, but still decent.
Well, I can assure you that had I done this, this would not have been a thing of beauty at all.
You know,
it would have been horrifying.
Well, you never know.
You never know.
Give yourself some credit.
Well,
I will say, the area up here, the cab where I usually drive, you can see it is filled with stuff right now. And that's because when I'm not traveling, when I'm sitting for 2 weeks or so, that I put a lot of stuff in this area, storage, extra food, my water containers. Then when I go to drive, I just pull that stuff out, put it around the table area or put it up in my bed because there's nothing up here. And then I can drive to the next location. And then again, just transferring it all down. It doesn't take very long and it makes a great storage area and garage, so to speak.
You're kind of an adventurer, so you have a bunch of toys that you carry with you that take up more space.
I do, absolutely. So I have a rocket box up on top that has my skis and snowboard in it. I have a lot of backpacking equipment. I also have, kiteboarding equipment. Some of my kites are actually right here.
We got to remember Stella.
Yes, we got to remember Stella. So Stella was my dog she was 14 years old. She passed away about 1.5 years ago. And she traveled with me the entire time. I got her when she was in Denver, and she traveled with me for all those years in the motorhome. There's still fur from her sitting around the motorhome, and she'll be with me forever for that. And so that's the other thing, is this little area up here was where she would sleep. And also sit while I was driving the vehicle, so I could just, reach over and pet her while I was driving. So now, like the kitchen area, a lot of people always say, like, oh, do you want to get rid of your table? Because it is kind of large, but I still like it. That I can work on my computer here, not an issue. You can collapse it down to make a bed out of this area. I've done that 2 or 3 times. You wanted the orange shag carpet.
Oh yeah, I got to see orange shag carpet.
This is the orange shag carpet. It is still above the cab, and it used to be all along the floor as well. But about 6 or 7 years ago, I replaced the flooring with a tile.
I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I mean, it adds a little bit to it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
A little 70s chic. So then the couch area, again, it has the old original cushions right here. That motif of the 70s, quite interesting.
Got that orange.
Yep, got that orange. I did build these shelves right here. I put one on each side, and it's just basically more flat surface that I can put a lot of my junk. And I have my little charging station. I created this little plug here so that I can have my cords here and I can put my phone up near my bed and charge. I also, one of the car magnets, I basically just kind of retrofitted it so that I can just do the magnet. I can just put my phone there to charge as well. So this area right here used to be just a shelf where you'd put your TV, but I don't have a TV, I just have my computer. So for a number of years, I built a bookshelf here, and I just carried around a bunch of books. And then that was just really heavy. And I have a Kindle. I use my Kindle for most things. So it kind of became just not essential for me. But I'd really wanted a food pantry. And so I built this gray box basically as a food pantry, but I also wanted a place where I could have this fold up and fold down. I can set my computer there, lay on the couch, and I can watch my computer or TV or whatever. And then the pantry itself, I just kind of did, so it's, kind of random foods. I put my computer up on the top. My only regret with this is I wish I would have put the sliders on it. So, because this is pretty far back, like I'm up to my shoulder.
Right.
So the food back there gets forgotten about for sure.
Right.
The other thing is I actually do not have a hot water heater. The hot water heater was leaking after the first couple of years, and so, but the downside of the water heater is it's a 6-gallon water heater. When you need a little hot water, you have to heat up the entire 6 gallons. You're wasting a lot of propane. I don't need it. When you do dishes, you are using soap and water. You don't need hot water. It doesn't sterilize it when you use hot water just to break up the dirt. It did come with a, the 4-burner stove and the oven. I rarely use my furnace. The furnace does indeed work, but again, it blows through a lot of propane. It uses some battery life. So I'll usually just bundle up a little more. I have a lot of scarves and scarves, and I have a little body heater that I can use as well. So again, I can replace those little cylinders, but the less I move, the more economical it is for me because of gas. The gas in the motorhome is crazy expensive because I only get 5 or 6 miles per gallon. So that's very painful. So the less I move, the better off I am. And so I always think about those considerations. If I can go a little bit longer without having to go get propane, dump tanks, get fresh water, things like that, it is a helpful economically for me. Just your normal.
It's a nice looking little kitchen.
Yeah, it's great. It has decent, not tons of counter space. None of these do, but this does have a little pull-out area that I do all my chopping and so forth with. So I was talking about the fridge earlier. Again, this is just the original fridge. Doesn't use any electricity on it. It's just all on my propane. Between the stove and the refrigerator, I can usually go about 2.5 months on 10 gallons of propane. So the bathroom, it used to have a sink right here, and this sink would drain into the black water tank. And that's always a limiting factor whenever I'm traveling, is that I fill up the black tank before I fill up the gray water tank because I don't shower in here. And so this water was going into the black water tank, which would fill it up even faster. So I never used it. It was just a hole that I would put stuff in. So eventually I just removed that and put this countertop on it instead. And it's been so much better this way. The toilet's just, your normal RV toilet, nothing pretty. Still works. I do use a black tank, and I can go, most time I can go about 4 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks without dumping my black tanks. Now we're talking about shower. My shower area is now my hang-up clothes, as well as storage. So I took the shower out years ago. It wasn't a comfortable shower. I didn't enjoy showering in it. It's very narrow. It does have, storage over here in the closets. A lot of my backpacking gear is back in. These are very deep and very spacious. You have all this food area.
It's a lot.
It is, yeah. So not the best utilization of my space, but still, it's a lot of storage in here, which lets me do all my hobbies and have more stuff.
And so you don't have your shower.
Correct.
How do you stay clean then?
So I have 2 different options. I do have a solar shower, especially in the summer. I set up a solar shower on the back of my rig on my ladder system. I have PVC that I put a tarp around. It creates like a framework of sorts. And then I hang my solar shower from the ladder so I can just take a shower that way. But most of the time, I just use a basin of water and soapy water in a washcloth. The other thing I use, super low tech gadget, I just take this water bottle right here, and then I drilled holes in the lid right there, and so that makes it pseudo like a shower head.
Mhm.
So I fill it full of water, put it in the sun, and then when I want to wash my hair, I just lean over and I do the shower head version. And so I get it wet, soap, do it again, and I collect it in a basin, and then I can just put it down the gray water tank. I don't like wet wipes. I'd much rather just use soapy water and a washcloth. I think it's better for the environment, and just I feel better after that. It's more uh, it just does a better job of cleaning, I would say. And one of the big reasons, kind of going back to the environmental aspect of it, that is one of the things I loved about being in the motorhome is that I feel we have a very small carbon footprint. Even getting 5.5, 6 miles per gallon, I only go about 2 or 3 thousand miles a year. So when you start adding all that stuff up and how little I use and how little water I use, uh, it's phenomenal how environmentally you can live and how much you can reduce your impact on the environment.
So I see you have you're towing a vehicle.
I am, yep. And so yeah, this is a Geo Tracker. After being on the road for about 5 or 6 months and getting a campground job up in the national forest, it was a huge ordeal to go and get groceries, and I didn't want to take the motorhome down to do that. It's just not practical. So I ended up with a Ford Festiva. I had that for about 6 years, but I felt a little limited on what it could do, so I got the Geo Tracker. This thing gets about almost 30 miles per gallon, 28, 30 miles per gallon. So it is a huge contrast to the 5 or 6 miles per gallon that I get in the motorhome. So I'll usually go to a place, park the motorhome, and then I can run around town, go adventure, things like that in the Geo Tracker. It does have four-wheel drive with lockers in the front so that you can get to so many places out in the backcountry. And it's narrow, so you can get to places that a lot of Jeeps can't even get to. I do have solar up on top. It went through 3 different stages. The first panel I put on was just an 80-watt panel. Then Bob, you guys helped me in Pahrump that very first time I met you guys. We put on a 135 watt Kyocera panel. And then several years ago, I added a third panel, 100-watt Renogy, because I was in an area that I needed, my motorhome was in the shade, but I needed solar out in the sunny area. And so I made it so that I could have that panel out there, but then at the end of the season, I wanted to put it up on my roof, so I did that. I can detach it up here and have it still as a remote if I want. I have that ability, but it's now tied into my system up there. The other cool thing I did up there, something I don't use very often, but I put most of them on door hinges so that they all have the ability to tilt towards the sun. And then so you just knock out one of the pins or two of the pins on the door hinges, and then it flips up. So so you can aim your solar panels at the sun if you want.
So let's give folks a contrast of the price of solar back then. How much do you think you paid for that 135-watt panel?
Well, so the 80-watt panel that I had Camping World install for 80 watts, and they just put in a cheap $30 controller. I already had the batteries. $1,200.
$1,200
Twelve
for
hundred
80
dollars
watts.
for them just putting a small panel on my roof and putting a little box and running 2 wires down,
Right.
2 wires to the battery. That second panel, the Kyocera 135 watt, that was $385.
Well, that was actually cheap for the day.
It was cheap back then, and so that's why I bought it. I nabbed it. It was $3 a watt, and then the Renogy one I bought was $100 for a 100-watt panel, so $1 a watt. So, and
Right.
I know now they're even cheaper.
Yes.
I have 3 AGM 12-volt batteries.
So, one of the things I'm really impressed with is how little it has cost you to own and operate this, 45-year-old RV. Tell us the details on that.
Yeah, so I bought it very cheaply. Again, this was back in 2009, and so prices were a lot lower back then. But I bought the motorhome for $3,300, put probably about $1,200 on solar, a couple other things. So probably all told like $4,800 for that part of it. I did have an engine that went bad on me a couple years down the road. I had to pay $4,500 for that. and then just random other engine and maintenance and oil changes, all that stuff. But all told, I've kept a record of all those expenses I've had, and I'm right around $11,000 or $12,000. And so that ends up, and I've been on the road for 12 years in it, so it ends up being less than $1,000 a year that I've been able to live in this thing. It
That's
doesn't include,
remarkable.
yeah, it doesn't include gas, and gas is a different story. But again, I'm only putting on about 2 or 3 thousand miles a year in the motorhome, so that again, that's not a whole lot of expense there because I just limit my driving as much as I can.
Well, Brian, thank you so much for sharing your home with us. And this is just remarkable. $1,000 a year for the last 12 years.
Yep.
Most people can afford that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and again, with my summer job in the as a campground, I am able to make enough money during the summers that I can float the entire winter and not work. And that's partly because I have low expenses. And since the motorhome doesn't cost me that much, and I don't move as much as other people do, it really helps with the economy of it.
So, folks, I'd really be curious to know how much do you think you're spending to live where you are? If you're in a house, do you think you get by with $1,000 a year in a house? Or if you're on the road, how much are you spending on your vehicle per year? And I'd really be curious to do a comparison and a contrast to Brian's experience here. So please leave a comment down below. I'd really like to know, and I think we can share with each other how we're living as cheaply as possible.
Absolutely.
So, Brian, thanks so much for sharing your life and your home with us. Some tremendous ideas here, some inspiration for people to follow. Folks, I hope you got something out of this video. If you did, like us on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, hit that thumbs up.